walking that way.
Let the things that are my soul.
You guys forgot how that works? We are Vienna. And one of our 4 stated values is Christ-centric worship. And so I want to thank our guests today, our musical guests today, for coming and restoking that Christ-centric worship and giving us this extra experience. And when I think about that, I also want to just say, have you guys noticed how much our whole worship has grown and changed? Through, yes, the ministry of the worship team, the ministry of the church working together. And it seems to me that the more the church works together, the sweeter the worship. It seems to me that true Christ-centric worship was never about what music, what people, what style, but about who you are worshiping. In order to worship, in order to really worship, you have to be a forgiven people. Michelle said something right as she was introducing the song. It wasn't connected, but she said, does Jesus really know you? Do you believe Jesus really knows you? And if we're all just take an honest moment for a second, the only person who really knows you is Jesus. And I'll take that one step further. That includes yourself. You do not know yourself like Jesus knows you. Because Jesus has forgiven even your future iniquities that you don't even know about yet. So this morning we'll talk about a forgiven people, but it's a part of a series we like to do Bible-based church sermon series. We've been talking all year about the heartbeat of Jesus and wanting the church to beat with the same heartbeat of Jesus. And this particular series, which we begin today, is called Bridges, Not Walls. I commented the other week about how many more young families have been joining our church in the last few years. And I believe that will keep happening. But we must be deliberate about building bridges, not walls. The church is in the business of getting people in, not keeping people out. You build walls around holy places that are cemeteries. By the way, you know the old joke, right? Why do cemeteries have walls? People are dying to get in. Are you dying to self to get into the ministry of Jesus? A church can be a bridge to Jesus. A church can be a wall blocking Jesus. In a galaxy far, far away, long, long ago, I pastored a church. And one of my elders was married to a gentleman who never came to church. He was not a church member, and she was married to him. And I knew that he had problems. He was a very talented musician and a very talented AV guy and a very talented guy, but he had issues. And I became aware that my elder, his wife, was sick. And I became aware that Scott would not be able to handle it well. So unbeknownst to her, I went down to visit Scott. And I sat with Scott, and he got his keyboard out, and he played some songs for me. He showed me what he's writing. And, they were all very spiritual songs. They're all beautifully religious songs. And as I talked to Scott, I said, why don't you start coming to church? I sense that things are changing. And Scott said to me, I will never forget what he said. He said, I can visit. I can't go. I can't be a part of the church. I cannot stand on the platform and play music for you. I could never be a part of your community. And I asked him, well, why do you say that? And he said, I could never be good like you people at church. I could never be holy like you people at church. I could never be sober like you people at church. And I began to realize that we had built a wall. We had built a wall, and we had labeled that wall, no sinners beyond this point. We had built a wall, and we had labeled it, you don't belong. It's like the leper, unclean. But what Jesus wanted to do was be a bridge. And so, a forgiven people. Do we really know what it means to be forgiven? Do we really know what it means to live a life where Jesus doesn't say you get to belong because you're holy, you get to belong because you have conquered the 10 steps of vegetarianism or veganism, you get to belong because you come to church at the right day, you get to belong because you have the right eschatology, you get to belong because you understand the right historical prophetic process for understanding the book of Revelation and Daniel. I'm going to go backwards here. Sorry. You get to belong simply because you're forgiven. And I wonder if the reason people think they have to be holy to come to church is we don't understand forgiveness. And so we come to church on Sabbath, and just as I put on this jacket, we put on a fake version of who we are. And we present a picture to people like Scott. Forgiven people are called to forgive others. Forgiven people are clearing the rubble of past damaged relationships. Forgiven people are building bridges of reconciliation. Christ is in us, reconciling us, the world, to him. We cannot preach amazing grace while people think we hold amazing grudges. Max Lucado said it this way. He said, "You will never forgive anyone any more than God has forgiven you." If you think that it's hard to forgive someone, you need to reevaluate what God has done for you. David, at the end of his life in Psalms 103, is reflecting back on his whole life, and David is remembering all the problems he had. Like when we remember our biblical heroes, when we remember our biblical all-stars, when we remember people like Daniel and Moses and David, we like to remember the slaying of Goliath. But we tend to forget the moments of weakness and shame. David had great triumphs of spirituality where he refused to kill Saul, but he also had great pitfalls and failures. He also didn't always defend his own women, children. He actually, at one point, lost his throne because of his unfair treatment amongst his own family members. And it is an aged David who is writing Psalms 103. It is an aged David who is reflecting back upon the heights of God's forgiveness and the lows of his sin. And it's an aged, wise David who doesn't want to pretend he's holy, but wants to focus on who is holy and who makes us holy. It's this age-old David that says, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, all that is within me. Bless his holy name." It's not our name that's holy. It's not our own essence that's holy. We are holy because of his name. We are holy because of his blessings. I don't know what is up with my PowerPoint today, but we will make it work. He is saying, bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits. And he begins down a path of benefits. He begins to say, now we'll move. Here we go. Who forgives all of our iniquity? Who heals all of our diseases? Who redeems your life from the pit and the crowns with love and compassion? And that's the thing about David, isn't it? God redeemed him both in the pit that night on a rooftop and with a crown when he was the first one to ascend to the throne in Jerusalem. Yes, Saul was the first king of Israel. David was the first to rule in Jerusalem. And so it is that we focus on either the pit or the crown, but the truth is, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be the one whose name is holy. Blessed be the one who redeems you both when you're in the pit and both with your crown. With love and compassion, who satisfies your desires with good things, so that your youth is renewed like eagles. It is the fact we will all have our down points. We will all have our up points. We will all have times when we feel blessed. We will all have times when we feel broken. But it is at the same time, no matter if you're in the pit or you're wearing the crown, is at the same time, if you have the crown on your head this morning and you came in with your head held high, or if you've been in the pit all week, it is still the same God who satisfies your desires for good things. He does not forget us in the pit or when we're wearing the crown. He keeps renewing us like our youth. As it says in from the Mount of Blessings, we are not forgiven because we forgive. But as we forgive, the ground of all forgiveness is found in the unmerited love of God. I want to think about that for a minute. Forgiveness is not an exchange. Forgiveness is not currency. I don't forgive so that I will be forgiven. Although Jesus clearly said in the Sermon on the Mount, if you don't forgive, you will not be forgiven. And if you forgive, you will be forgiven. But that's not why we forgive. It is what happens, though. And if you stop and you think about it, here's what's going on. I hope we don't forgive just to get something out of it. But I know I got stuff to be forgiven for. And I suspect you do too. And I suspect if we're honest in a way that we won't be honest out loud with, I suspect we know that merit cannot change what we need forgiven for. I suspect that there's not a thing any one of us can do to fix some problems we've created. And so it is as we find Jesus forgiving us, despite our ability to fix what we've broken, we become a whole lot more inviting to people like Scott. We're not holding up some false standard and saying, this is where everybody... No, the standard we hold up is Jesus. And the way we measure that is by the unyielding merit he has given us. God is building bridges. We simply need to stop putting toll booths on them. The cross is a bridge. And if there was a toll booth on the cross, I could not afford the fare. God is building bridges to heal people. What are we doing? The Lord is compassionate and he is gracious and he is slow to anger and what? Abounding love. The Lord is compassionate and slow to anger. The Lord is compassionate and slow to and abounding in. Vienna is compassionate and slow to anger. Remember, it said the blessing was on his holy name, not your holy name? Well, yeah, it only gets transferred to your holy name if you are walking in his holy name. So the Lord is and slow and Vienna is and you are you sure? You are compassionate, gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love, and will not always accuse, nor will he harbor his anger forever. Christians, on the other hand, wait. Vienna will not. Whoa. Vienna will not always, nor our. You will. He does not treat us as, come on. He does not treat us You guys believe that? I don't know about you, but I'm glad we're a people forgiven. I don't know about you, but right now I am so glad he does not treat me like my sins deserve. I don't know about you. I am so glad that God is not keeping a scorebook to repay our iniquities. God tracks sin for one reason and one reason only, so he knows what to blot out. He is compassionate. He is slow to anger. He does not treat us the way we deserve to be treated, nor repay us according to our iniquities. But you burn somebody, for as high as the heavens are above the earth. You guys know this, right? For as high as the heavens are above the earth. For how high? as high as the heavens are above the earth. So great is his love for those who fear him. As what? You know this. As the east is from the what? So far as he's removed our transgressions from us. C.S. Lewis says it this way. C.S. Lewis says, to be Christian means to forgive the inexcusable. Because God has forgiven the inexcusable in you. Again, think about what Michelle told us at the beginning of her song. Do you believe God really knows you? He knows about what's inexcusable. He knows about what you struggle with. He knows about your future. And we can forgive people. We can be a bridge to broken people. When we realize how much we are forgiven and how much we are a forgiven people. I've been studying about this group called Project Forgive. I don't know, have you ever heard of Project Forgive? I've been studying about this Project Forgive. I found some of their interviews. I want to call them a ministry, but they're not a ministry. They're not church-based. They're not faith-based. They're not politics-based. That's their big claim, that they're not religion-based. They're not politics-based. They just are a project, an experiment on forgiveness. And they teach seminars about how to be forgiven. They teach seminars how to forgive other people. They teach seminars on what it means for forgiving. A completely secular organization came of a result of a conflict that happened between Gary Weinstein and Tom Wellinger. These two men knew each other. They both lived just outside in the suburbs of Detroit about 10 years ago. In fact, they both were fathers and both were husbands and both had 2 children. In fact, as incredible as it is, not only did they both live in the same suburbs and have the same amount of children, and thankfully the same amount of wives, their kids went to the same school. And the founder of Project Forgive sometimes babysat for both of them. But one night, Tom ran a red light while drinking. And Gary instantly lost his wife and daughter. And later that next couple of days, his son too. And they knew each other in passing. Like they didn't know each other, like went to the block party together. They didn't know each other like they had Sunday dinner together. But they shared a babysitter. They went to the same teacher conferences at the school. And Gary, he was mad. And Tom, I don't even know what to tell you about Tom. He wanted to die himself. Except he still had his children and his wife. Gary was furious because Tom was only going to get 16 years. And I heard Gary talk about this in an interview, and he said, 16 years seems too little. For taking one life, let alone 3. He said, he did more than take 3 lives. He took 4. Because I don't have anything left. And he was enraged that the court would give him only 16 years. And so he got the opportunity to address the court. And he said, I need to put my eyes on this man who took everything from me. I can't convince the judge to change the sentence, but I need him to look at me. I need his sentence to be greater than the time he serves. I need him to see what he's done. And he went to the court to confront him. And when he walked up to him, which should not happen, I don't know what goes on in Michigan 10 years ago. He walked right up to him in the courtroom. And he was about to blast him. And was shocked by what came out of his mouth. He meant it mean. Oh, he meant it mean. But it didn't land mean. Not to his own ears. He looked at Tom and he said, and how's your kids? When he said that, suddenly 16 years seemed too long. Suddenly he thought about how he would never have his kids again. Suddenly he thought, why should 2 families be parted forever? And Tom looked up at him. Pastor Kosey, I got to get back to my iPad next week. He looked up. Tom looked up at him and just wept and said, can you forgive me? And Gary said, instantly, it's not me that's the problem, Tom. Can you forgive yourself? Now I go full circle. I said that the church shouldn't build walls to keep people out, and I told you the story about Scott. And while it is true we need to be building bridges to help people like Scott come in, sometimes it's not the church that needs to forgive. Often it is, but sometimes it's also we need to forgive ourselves. And that was the foundation for Project Forgive. They hold classes and teach seminars and do workshops and go around the country. They're a nonprofit organization. And they teach people that the key to being able to be a forgiven person, the key to be a forgiven people, to be a collectively given people, is to break down the first wall. To knock it over and make it a bridge. To understand, we must understand our own forgiveness in order to extend the bridge of forgiveness to others. As far as the east is from the west, so far he has removed our transgressions from us. And David closes his hymn saying, "Praise the Lord. All his works are everywhere. In his dominion, praise the Lord. O my soul." Listen, if you are looking for your sin, you cannot find it any place on the map. In fact, I asked ChatGPT, how do I build an image to describe that? You cannot make a picture of the east being away from the west. This is an impossible idea. And so is it impossible to find sin forgiven by Jesus. But I ask you this. We sang this morning, Amazing Grace. My chains are what? But sometimes we're holding another G. Amazing grace and amazing grudges. Who's the Scott in your life? Who's the one relationship in your life? Who's the one person who doesn't understand that their sin is as far as the east from the west? I cannot publicly go into all I saw in the last month in my own family. But I saw forgiveness that I never thought was possible. And it always starts in realizing if my sin can't be placed on the map, neither can anybody else's. Who's the one person? What are you going to do Who's the one person? What are you going to do? It's on your card on the back. We'll talk about it after the song. Who's the one person? What are you going to do this week? What are you going to pray about this week? How are you going to let that person know they are forgiven as far as you're concerned? I'll be back in a moment, and we'll talk more about it.